Last week, we talked about inconvenience and how powerful of a tool it is when it comes to our community, when it comes to our self-growth, when it comes to expanding upon your inspiration and your creativity. Now, I want to branch off of that this week, and let's talk about finding comfort in the unknown, and hence, inconveniencing ourselves, but for our self-development. Hello and welcome back to the Kalopsia podcast. I'm your host, Sydney, and I'm so thankful that you guys came and clicked on this week's episode. And like I said in the intro, this week's episode is going to be a little bit of a continuation from last week's, where we talked about inconvenience and how important it is to kind of flip that script and think of inconvenience not as a negative thing, not as something that takes away from our comfort, from our life, from our happiness even, and use it and see it as a tool for our development and for our expansion as people. Now, I stumbled upon this quote by Bashar, who is supposedly has a split personality, or he doesn't have a split personality, but he has contact with aliens, is kind of what they describe his kind of split personality to be. There's like the human version of Bashar and then the alien version of Bashar. And you don't have to believe this to listen to what I'm about to say, but I have always loved watching his videos because he has so much knowledge within those videos when he's in this kind of communication with the aliens mode, even when he's in his human form. But I do believe that this quote is from his book, but I'll just read it for you now. Bashar wrote in his book, "The only thing you discover in the unknown is more of yourself." And I really, really loved this perspective. How do we look at the unknown typically, right? We look at the unknown as something that's scary, something that is risky, something that has the potential to alienate us, something that has the potential to ridicule us, something that has the potential to isolate us, something that has the potential to make others reject us, something that puts us at risk of failure. The unknown is often attributed to all of these really negative emotions, these negative feelings, because of the uncertainty behind it. But when you look at a lot of philosophical concepts, I think this is also a big one when it comes to Stoicism as well, which is that there is nothing that you can control. The only thing that you can control is the way that you react to things, the way that you internalize things. I feel like that philosophy is something that can really, really be applied to the unknown. And I feel like, just like we spoke about last week, something that we have developed a lesser tolerance to or diminished our tolerance to is this discomfort, is this uncertainty, is the unknown. We no longer think that we have something to gain from this inconvenience, that we have anything to gain from the unknown. Something that is really prominent, right, is technology, it's knowledge. We have so much access to information, so much access to knowledge, and I think that it has actually inflated our egos about a lot of information, and I think that that's actually kind of correlated to what I perceive to be almost like loss of wisdom. The way that I internalize the media currently is almost as though there are hundreds of voices shouting upon one another, each trying to speak their own opinion and each fighting to have the bigger voice. That's kind of the way that I perceive the internet, the way that I perceive even TikTok comment sections, the way that I perceive, YouTube comment sections, the way that I perceive even book reviews on Goodreads. It's almost as though we're all shouting upon one another, trying to gain the bigger voice, because we all believe so deeply that our opinion is the right one. We all believe so deeply that we hold the answer. Now, I think that this is interesting because in relation to the unknown, in relation to inconvenience and things like this, having that kind of mentality of thinking, I know what's right, I know what's wrong, I know what, this information to the very root of it. I know this information and I know this to be true. I know this to be false. This, conspiracy that. It's incompatible with tolerating inconvenience. It's incompatible with tolerating the unknown. Because at the end of the day, we're constantly fighting to prove that we hold knowledge, that we are able to dispel knowledge, that we are able to pick a stance and fight for that stance. But the unknown requires us to drop our egos. The unknown requires us to concede to the fact that we don't know everything. It requires that of us. And that's why we have such a resistance to it. Socrates famously said, "I only know one thing. That is, I know nothing." And I think that this is one of the biggest philosophies that I personally love to live by. And I think that it has tremendously helped my approach to environments, conversations, rooms in which there is such a high degree of unknown. For example, the field that I'm currently in, I stumbled upon it. Something that had always frightened me when I was in college, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do as a career, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my life. I'm thinking I don't know anything to the extent that it feels as though I need to in order to choose a path, if that makes any sense. For example, part of me wanted to delve into philosophy, and I was like, I really know like 3 phrases and that's kind of it. I can't really go into philosophy if I know nothing about it, right? I feel like that's not enough to kind of justify my pursuit of it. I need to know things. I need to be knowledgeable about it. Okay, well, what if I want to do psychology? What if I want to be a therapist? Oh, well, I know a lot about psychology. I know a lot about the brain, but I don't know enough. I haven't experienced enough. I don't know enough about life. I need to be older. I need to learn more in order to become a therapist. Maybe I was thinking, what if I do medicine? Well, I don't know enough. I don't know enough about the field. I don't know enough about it. And so how can I do any of that? And so when I was in college, quite literally for the entire 4 years, I was going through it blind. I was going through my classes. I had a task in front of me. I had assignments in front of me. I completed them. I submitted them, and I went on to the next. I completed them. I submitted them, and then I went on to the next. I did that for 4 straight years, graduated, and had no idea what I wanted to do because I was so adamant in my brain that, well, I don't know enough about any of these particular sectors. Sure, I did this degree, but to what extent can I really vet for my own, expertise? And I think that the greatest breakthrough that I actually had was creating this podcast. And I'm realizing it even now as I'm talking about it, this was kind of the first time I really took a chance and launched myself into something that I really knew nothing about. And I feel like that is where I have based a lot of my confidence, even however small this podcast is, however small, the platform I have is. It's really something that I launched, from a place of knowing nothing about sound design, knowing nothing about microphones, knowing nothing about, video and uploading that on YouTube, how to link up audio and visual, how to create an episode, how to brainstorm an episode, how to maybe go stream of mine with it. I knew nothing about podcasting, nothing about how that works. I listened to maybe a couple of podcasts at the time. At the time, I don't remember watching that many podcasts even, because I think I started this in 2022, and actually maybe a couple of, I did definitely listen to the canceled podcast with China Mojo. I can't remember exactly when that started, but I did listen to that one, and that's kind of the only thing coming to mind. There was not a lot of information out there for me to base myself off of, and I really launched myself into the unknown. But I think that is where we have the most to learn. And coming back to Bashar's quote, he says, the only thing you discover in the unknown is yourself. He really is saying that the more that you push yourself out of your comfort zone, the more that you push yourself into environments, into projects, into situations and conversations and rooms in which that you feel you are less knowledgeable, that you feel that you are, more at risk in, then the more that you have to gain from that room, the more that you stand to gain from that experience. And I really feel like that is my testimony with this podcast. I learned so much about my capacity to express myself, so much about my capacity to expose myself, something that is that I really struggled with at the beginning of this episode was even myself being heard. I was afraid of being heard speaking on the mic. I was afraid of my roommates listening to me. I famously, at the beginning of this podcast, I used to record it under my comforter, under my blanket, and I would actually like whisper. So if you go and listen to my earlier episodes, if you're like, I can't hear a thing, and that's probably because I was under my blanket whispering so my roommates wouldn't be able to hear me, then like, let's not even talk about me trying to share this podcast. I basically failed to share it for the entire first 50 episodes for the entire first season. I just did not share it with anyone. I maybe told a couple people in passing, but I was so afraid of being listened to, of being heard, and that put me at risk. It put me at risk of being judged. It put me at risk of being, compared to other podcasts, to other voices, to other thoughts. But that is something that we need. That is something that we require in order to achieve any level of growth. It is necessary to face adversity. It is necessary to face risk in order to lean and grow into something different, into something novel. Now, just last night, I feel this urgency with this thought because I just rewatched Dead Poet Society, and I actually can't speak on it too deeply or else I will start to cry yet again. I don't know. I feel like the first time I watched it, I was distracted by all the pretty faces. The second time around, it really hit me. Yeah, it really hit me. But I feel like that movie does such a good job of the earnestness that occurs when you launch yourself into something that you know nothing about. All of these students in this Walton Academy, Walton boarding school, they know their future. They know exactly what they're meant to do. They know the extents of their environment. They know the bounds and the limits of their environment. They are top students. They study, they work hard, and then they're faced with this professor. If you guys haven't watch the movie, I really recommend, but be prepared to sob. They're sent into this room with this new English professor that invites them to think about poetry, something that they are learning about for the first time, exposing themselves to emotions and mindsets and ways of thinking that they had never thought of before. And you can see the resistance. You can literally witness the resistance to embarking into this deep unknown that is poetry, and that is every emotion that poetry invites us to think about and lean deeper into. And you can witness that resistance, but you can also see them break through. And I think that is what we really stand to gain from this inconvenience and from this unknown. Bravery will tell us that, what's life worth living for if you don't take a risk, if you don't, not jump off a cliff, but if you don't do something, if you don't stray from your script. That's what we always think of when we think of bravery, when we think of a life that has been truly, really well lived, and carpe diem, of course, the famous quote from the movie. But it's something that we can also introduce into our lives in doses, because I don't want to come on here and say, you guys, do something crazy, just quit your job, just do whatever, launch yourself into the unknown, that's what's going to make you grow. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's something that we need to remold our perspective upon, because our lives are really only a product of our perception of things. And if we look at the unknown, and if we look at inconvenience as something that works against us, as something that's negative, as something that's there to hurt us, then we're really just hurting ourselves. We're hurting our capacity to learn from this experience, and we're hindering our capacity to use it as a tool. And so how can we introduce this into our lives in a way that feels manageable, in a way that builds our tolerance to inconvenience, that builds our tolerance towards the unknown? I want to propose that we adopt this new mindset, or this new kind of mantra that I want to also incorporate into my life, and we'll see where it takes us. We can reconvene in a month's time, is to act as if, act as if the things are going to go well. Act as if the best outcome will arise. When it comes to let's say, reaching out to someone that we haven't reached out to in a little while and thinking, I haven't spoken to this person in a while. Maybe they forgot about me. I don't know if they really care about me anymore. Would it be kind of weird for me to reach out? It's been a really long time. You know what? What if it goes perfectly well? What if it goes the perfect way? They reach out, they're saying, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you. Oh my gosh, like this is amazing. This is crazy. Like I was just thinking about you. Now you've just reached out. Of course, let's go grab coffee. Act as if that it's going to go well. And even when you face that rejection, if it comes, it might not come, then you are building that tolerance to that rejection. You're building that tolerance to, okay, if things don't go as planned, I'm still fine. I'm still going to come out the other side. And I really want to reference back to the movie, Dead Poet Society, in which one of the characters, his name is Knox, right? This isn't really a spoiler, but if you do want to watch the movie and you haven't watched it, then maybe skip 30 seconds and ahead. But basically, he goes up to this girl and he reads her a poem while she's at school. And he comes back to his friends and they're like, did you do it? Did you do it? What'd she say? What'd she say? He's like, nothing, but I read it. And he is so happy with himself. He's literally floating. Even if it didn't go exactly the same way that he wanted it to, then he took that action. And thinking back to a couple episodes ago, action is what is going to free you from that kind of stagnation and that stress. Taking action and trusting yourself to take action, that's going to help you build that tolerance with discomfort. That's going to help you build that tolerance with the unknown, because at the end of the day, you did something, and that is better than having done nothing at all. Something that I'd also love to recommend is journaling. I absolutely love journaling. I will always stand by it. It is a hot girl habit. I think it's the best thing that you can do to just check up on yourself on a regular basis. And when it comes to these levels of uncertainty, when it comes to these inconveniences, being able to write it down, think, okay, what made me react this way? How do I feel about this? Why do I think I'm reacting this way about this? Did this threaten something in my perception? Did this corroborate something that I was thinking? Does it threaten me and my character? Is it what is it that frustrated me? What is it that made me feel unsafe? What is it that made me feel scared? And being able to check in with yourself in that way is going to build that self-confidence, and it's going to build your tolerance to uncertainty. And you're just going to be able to build upon your own relationship with yourself through this uncertainty, and also through the process of you actually working through that uncertainty. And thus we come back to the whole quote of the only thing that you have to learn when it comes to the unknown is yourself, right? There is so much room for self-reflection, so much room for community building as well, and being able to lean on one another and push one another when it comes to being put into situations that are uncomfortable, uncertain, unknown. And that is what we have to gain. So when you look at the unknown, sure, it puts you at risk of failure. Sure, it puts you at risk of isolation. Maybe it puts you at risk of exile. Maybe it is scary. Maybe it is unpredictable. Maybe it's non-conforming. But the trade-off is tenfold. You gain that independence maybe. Maybe you are able to show yourself how much you are capable of. Maybe you gain discovery, novelty, inspiration, a new voice, a new perspective. And something else that really comes to mind when we're talking about our tolerance to the unknown is something that I've actually learned in my class, which is behavioral cusps. Now, behavioral cusps, which I always confuse with pivotal behaviors, is when you learn something that actually pushes you into new environments and allows you to learn even more skills. So for example, I think that an example of this could be me starting this podcast, me being able to start this up, pick up the mic that first time, release that episode that first time. Now it introduced me to the realm of podcasting. Okay, now I'm going to maybe discuss it with my peers more about how do they podcast, or if I know somebody else who podcasts, of course. That could be a weird example. Maybe the example is you decide to buy a piano online. You decide to pick up a piano and you start learning a few chords. Okay, that's the behavior that you chose to build. Now you're going to be able to maybe take a lesson and go and learn even more songs. And maybe you are actually able to reach out to other people who play other instruments that are also going to learn and help you learn more about your instrument, but learn about the harmony between instruments as well. And so each skill that you push yourself towards within that unknown is going to push you into new environments, new discussions, new discussions where you are able to learn further about that. And so don't cut yourself short and deny yourself of the capacity to build on that skill and to expand from that skill just because you are faced with that natural, very natural initial fear of leaping into the unknown with all the risk that it entails. But there is beauty within that fear. And I think that that's where we have to find our comfort. We have to try to find distance and space from what social media pushes us to do, which is to prove ourselves as knowledgeable, to prove ourselves to know everything about a certain topic, about a certain place, about a certain concentration, and to instead adopt this more Socratic, this more Socrates leaning philosophy that is that I know nothing. I don't know enough about this topic, but that is not going to deter me from leaping into this and allowing myself the pleasure and the privilege to try to learn more about it. It's going to be scary at the beginning, but it won't stay scary for a long time. And maybe you can also help other people who want to learn more about that thing. Maybe you learn a few chords on the piano. Perfect. My friend who was also interested about it, let me teach her. Oh, I learned how to make a crochet coaster. Oh my gosh, somebody else is saying they want to learn how to crochet. Now I know how to make a crochet coaster. Let me send it to you. I thought it was scary too. I've had the yarn for years, but I finally figured it out. So now we can all learn, and now we can make even a crochet group, and we can all make hats, and we can make scarves, and we can make gloves. We can do it all. And so it's all about pushing past that initial fear, but discomfort and unknown. It is really a tool for us to learn and build within ourselves. I think that's all I have for you guys today. I'm so thankful. Thank you for clicking on this week's episode. Do not forget to send in your slices of Kalopsia, your slices of daily beauty, banal beauty, and send it in to @kalopsiapod, KALOPSIAPOD on Instagram. And there is also the TikTok under that same title or username. But yeah, like I said in the couple weeks before, I want it to be a whole collection where we all put in our slices of Kalopsia or daily Kalopsia. So don't forget to send in your pictures if you so choose to be included. And then it's also @Syneydjotita, SYDNEYDJOTITA on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for just my personal stuff. And of course for these episodes on the YouTube. Now again, I'm so thankful that you guys clicked on this week's episode. I hope that you enjoyed. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts in the comments and subscribe if you are on YouTube, or maybe leave a review. But I will see you next Sunday.